Here's something that'll blow your mind. Right now, thousands of complete strangers around the world are keeping track of every Bitcoin transaction that's ever happened. They don't know each other, they don't trust each other, and there's no boss telling them what to do, yet somehow they all agree on who owns what. How is that even possible? How do you get people who've never met to agree on anything, let alone something as important as money? And how do you do it without anyone being in charge? That's the real magic trick blockchain pulled off. Forget cryptocurrency for a second. Blockchain solved one of the oldest problems in human civilization. How do you trust someone you don't know? And the solution is so clever, so elegant, that once you see it, you'll understand why people get excited about this technology. Let's start with why this matters, because once you see the problem blockchain solves, everything else clicks. You want to buy a vintage guitar from someone across the country. They want $500 for it. Simple transaction, right? Except you don't know this person. What if you send the money and they never ship the guitar? What if they ship you a broken guitar? What if they're not even real? In the normal world, you'd use PayPal or a bank. You send your $500 to PayPal, they send their guitar to you, and when you confirm it arrived, PayPal releases your money to them. PayPal is the middleman you both trust to make sure nobody gets screwed. But here's what's interesting about that middleman. PayPal can freeze your account whenever they want. They can reverse transactions. They can charge fees. They can decide your purchase violates their terms of service. They have complete control over whether your deal happens. Now imagine if you could make that same deal with the same level of security but without PayPal. No middleman at all, just you, the seller, and some kind of system that makes sure both of you follow through. That's what blockchain figured out how to do. It created a way for strangers to make deals without needing a trusted middleman. Instead of one company keeping track of who owns what, thousands of people around the world keep track, and they all have to agree. But wait, if thousands of random people are keeping the records, how do you stop someone from just lying? How do you prevent someone from writing down that they have $1 million when they actually have 10? This is where blockchain gets brilliant. Picture this. There's a classroom with 30 students, and they're all keeping track of who owes lunch money to whom. Every student has their own notebook, and they're all writing down the same information. When Sarah wants to give $5 to Mike, she doesn't just hand him cash quietly. She stands up and announces to the entire class, "I'm giving $5 to Mike." All 30 students write this down in their notebooks. Now here's the clever part. The students don't just scribble transactions randomly. They organize them into neat groups, let's call them pages, with exactly 10 transactions per page. And here's the really smart bit. Each new page starts with a special code that represents everything written on the previous page. What kind of code? Think of it like a fingerprint. You take everything on page 1, every transaction, every number, every letter, and you run it through a math formula that spits out a unique code. Change even one tiny thing on page 1, and you get a completely different code. So page 2 starts with page 1's fingerprint written at the top. Page 3 starts with page 2's fingerprint. Page 4 starts with page 3's fingerprint. Each page is connected to the one before it through these mathematical fingerprints. This creates a chain, literally a chain of pages where each one is linked to the previous one. That's why it's called blockchain. Now let's say Tommy decides to cheat. He goes back to page 5 and changes a transaction to give himself extra lunch money. The moment he changes anything on page 5, that page gets a completely different fingerprint. But page 6 still has the old fingerprint written at the top, the one from before Tommy made his change. Suddenly, Tommy's notebook doesn't match anyone else's. The chain is broken. All the other students can see that something's wrong with Tommy's version, so they ignore it and stick with the version that 29 out of 30 people agree on. This is the genius of blockchain. It's not just a list of transactions. It's a list where every entry is mathematically connected to every other entry. You can't change the past without breaking the chain, and you can't break the chain without everyone noticing. But we still have a problem. In our classroom, Sarah could announce her transaction to everyone at once. But on the internet, with thousands of people spread across the globe, how do you make sure everyone gets the same information? This is blockchain's second brilliant trick. Instead of having one person in charge of updating the records, it lets anyone volunteer to do the job. These volunteers are called miners or validators, compete to be the one who gets to write the next page. Here's how. When new transactions come in, validators collect them and try to create the next page. But first, they have to solve a math puzzle. It's like a lottery, except instead of buying tickets, you solve equations. The first person to solve the puzzle wins the right to write the next page. Once someone solves it, they broadcast their page to everyone else. All the other participants double-check the work. They make sure the puzzle was solved correctly and all the transactions are valid. If enough people agree, the page gets added to everyone's copy of the record book. The person who created the page gets a reward, new cryptocurrency. This gives people a real reason to participate in maintaining the system. And that's it. That's how blockchain works. No central authority, no single point of control. Just math, incentives, and a really clever way of making sure everyone agrees on the truth. Now, this elegant system runs into some messy real-world problems. First, it's slow. Remember that math puzzle? In Bitcoin, it's designed to take about 10 minutes to solve. That means you can only add one page every 10 minutes, and each page can only hold a limited number of transactions, about 3 to 7 per second for the entire Bitcoin network. Compare that to Visa, which can handle 24,000 transactions per second. So while blockchain is incredibly secure, it's also incredibly slow. Different blockchains try to solve this in different ways. Ethereum switched from puzzle solving to a system called proof of stake, where validators are chosen based on how much cryptocurrency they're willing to lock up as collateral. It's faster and uses way less energy, but it gives more power to people who already have more money. Then there's the question of who gets to participate. Bitcoin is permissionless. Anyone can download the software and start validating. But many companies create private blockchains where only approved people can validate transactions. These are faster, but they're also more centralized, which defeats the whole point. Here's something that might surprise you. Most blockchains aren't anonymous. They're pseudonymous. Every transaction is public. Anyone can see that wallet address A sent money to wallet address B. Your name isn't attached, but your wallet address is. And if someone figures out that wallet address belongs to you, they can see every transaction you've ever made. There's also the environmental issue. Bitcoin uses roughly as much electricity as Poland. That's because the math puzzles are designed to be hard to solve, and hard means using massive amounts of computer power. But here's the biggest thing to understand. Blockchain doesn't eliminate trust. It shifts it. Instead of trusting a bank, you're trusting that most validators won't team up against you. You're trusting that the code works correctly. You're trusting that the math won't be broken by future quantum computers. And if something goes wrong, if you send money to the wrong address, if you lose your password, if you fall for a scam, there's no customer service, no manager to call. The transaction is permanent. This is why blockchain adoption has been slower than the hype suggested. It's not just a better version of existing systems, it's a completely different approach with completely different trade-offs. So why should you care? Because blockchain is quietly changing how the world works, whether you use it directly or not. Ever tried sending money to family overseas? You know the pain. High fees, days of waiting, banks taking their cut at every step. Blockchain payment systems are already offering alternatives that can be faster and cheaper. Ever worried about who has access to your medical records? Blockchain systems can let you control exactly who sees what parts of your health data, instead of hospitals keeping everything in their own databases. Ever bought something online and wondered if it's authentic? Blockchain supply chain tracking can provide an unalterable record of where products come from. But here's what's really important. Blockchain isn't going to replace everything overnight. What it's doing is creating alternatives. And in a world where we're increasingly worried about the power of big tech companies and financial middlemen, having alternatives matters. Think about it this way. You might never buy coffee with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin existing puts pressure on traditional payment systems to be faster and cheaper. You might never store your identity on a blockchain. But blockchain identity systems give you leverage when companies want to use your data. The real power isn't that blockchain will replace everything, it's that it's expanding your options. It's creating a world where you don't have to trust centralized authorities if you don't want to. This is already happening. Central banks are creating digital currencies. Companies are using blockchain to track diamonds and food safety. Artists are selling digital art as NFTs in ways that weren't possible before. You don't need to become a crypto trader to benefit from this. You just need to understand that blockchain is creating new possibilities for how we transfer value and establish trust. Here's what blockchain actually is: a way to maintain a shared, tamper-resistant record without anyone being in charge. It works by having many people keep copies of the same database, linking transactions together mathematically, and using economic incentives to keep everyone honest. It's not magic. It's slow. It uses lots of energy, and it comes with new risks. But it's creating genuine alternatives to systems controlled by centralized authorities. The next time someone tells you blockchain is just hype, you'll know better. It's about something fundamental: how we coordinate and trust each other in a digital world. And that's a problem worth solving.